So, good afternoon to you all. I hope you've all had a great week. So today, what I'm going to be talking about is really what is the point of social media, but very much talking about it in the context of how is social media changing how people are buying and researching products online, and how, or what that means for you in terms of your marketing mix and how you need to go about engaging and talking to people throughout that process. So I'm aiming to talk for about 45 minutes, which will leave sort of 15 minutes at very most, or 10 minutes at the end for questions. So I'll save questions to the end, so as was said, if you can just post them in the question box there, I'll take questions at the end. So there's been a real big hype about social media and its importance, and I thought I'd start off with a few statistics. So people are using search engines quite a lot to find information, but what's interesting is on the back of that how people are using social media. So 15% of social media users are more inclined to buy from brands that advertise on social media. So what that means is people who are engaged online are far more likely to buy online, and actually far more likely to converse and engage with brands through those channels. People who like Facebook pages predominantly like them to receive discounts, promotions, exclusive content, exclusive news. So you really need to think about how you can use that and look at your content. But more importantly, what people are doing in terms of a factor which influences their decision is a recommendation from friends or family. So whether that's something they've seen on their Facebook page in terms of content from a fan page, or whether it's them talking about that brand or that service, what people are saying is that 70% of people, 71% of people are giving this as an important reason to buy from that website. But if you then look at other stats, people are using mobile devices for a lot of the social media. So a lot of Twitter and Facebook use is through smartphones, so iPads, iPhones, Android phones, HTC. And I think the other thing is people are blending the channels. So 30% of people will research a product and prices online before they go to their local store. So they'll do the research online, but they'll then go to a physical store to purchase that behaviour. I've also seen other stats where people will go to a store to see the physical product, but then done the purchase online because they want to look at the recommendations for it and check out the retailer. But also people are using these channels as search engines in their own right. So for example, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So if somebody wants to look at how to wire a plug, how to grow sunflowers, people are actually using YouTube as a source of information. And I think the other key thing is when you start looking at user content, 25% of search results on the top largest brands are user-generated content. And so what that's saying is that there's a lot of people out there setting up their own blogs, talking about it on Twitter, YouTube, and actually talking about their brand. So it might be how to set up a Windows PC, it might be how to use a piece of software. People are actually engaging with brands in a really, really different way. But also thinking a little bit about websites. Search engines, especially Google, are focusing in on social factors as a means of boosting rankings in search engines. So it's becoming far more influential in terms of the customer buying process, but also how search engines rank you in the search engines. So what this chart here, or this graph here, shows is what is called the marketing funnel. So let me talk you through how this works. So right at the top, you've got your marketing mix. And on the right-hand side, you've got your traditional media. So you've got your ads, your radio, the events, any flyers that you might do, business cards. And on the left-hand side, you've got your pay-per-click, search engines, blogs, social media, email marketing, videos, and that all feeds into your marketing mix, which drives visitors into your website. And before, it was quite a linear process, so people would perhaps just look at one of those channels and then make their purchase. People are a lot more informed, and it's quite dynamic how people are actually researching. So they kind of go through this awareness stage, and that awareness might be seeing a comment on Facebook, it might be see a tweet go past, it might be a video on YouTube that you've done, it might be a whole range of different things. It might be an audio on audio boot. And the reason that they've got that awareness is because they've potentially got an interest in that. They might have got an interest, perhaps not now, but in the future around your products and services. They then have that desire, and they then go through that research process to buy the product or service, and they then convert. But you'll see throughout all of this on the right hand side, what is here is referred to as engage tactics. So what we're talking about here is through this whole idea of capturing people, nurturing people, qualifying people through the sales process, we're using engagement techniques to draw them down the sales funnel. So let me show you that a little bit different way around. There's some new research come out which has been termed dynamic customer journey. So if you start on the left hand side around awareness, which kind of reflects that other chart we just saw, which is at the start of the sales funnel, people have an awareness. They then go through to evaluating, so they start evaluating you compared to competitors. They'll make that purchase, and they'll then have that loyalty, and they'll become an advocate. But what that actually means, when you're thinking specifically here about social media, is awareness. How can you build awareness of your product, your service, in terms of getting people's attention? So that's through using Twitter, blogging, videos, audio. That is really, really important, because if people are thinking about that product or considering purchasing, getting your brand in front of them is really important. In that evaluation stage, they are comparing your products with your competitors, and reviews and customer engagement is key at this point in time. They might ask followers what they think, or ask your followers for recommendations. So if they can see on your Facebook page people have left comments and reviews, that's really going to give them a lot more confidence in your product and service. So when they get around to the purchase stage, they're going to buy a product that they feel gives them the most confidence and they trust is going to deliver the product or service that they want. But if they have a positive experience throughout the whole of that sales process, they're going to become a brand advocate. So if this person's engaged online, they're going to leave reviews, they're going to make recommendations. But what this translates into is people don't actually want to talk to anybody in sales until they're further down the sales process. They're going to use these engagement techniques as signals and as indicators for them to make their decision. So this change in purchasing process fundamentally changes how you need to interact with your potential customers. So what you need to look at is your optimal marketing mix, which is going to enable you to draw as many people down that sales marketing funnel as possible. But the key to this is very much blending your offline and marketing activities to create that awareness, keeping them as split out. From experience, you don't get the exponential effect as you do if you combine them. And what I mean by that is, if you're doing a flyer, for instance, you put on there your Twitter ID, your Facebook page, so people can find you. If you've got a store, it's about promoting your people to check in and get a prize, for instance. More importantly, you need to start thinking about how you can engage with prospects when they're at that very early stage in their buying process. And I call it more of a self-service style of information. So they will contact people or your sales team when they're ready and further down that sales process. So very much on this self-service style of information, you need to think about what information do buyers need to be able to make informed decisions. And that is everything from all your FAQs, which you might have blog posts, it might be videos demonstrating how to use the product, it might be video customer testimonials. It will be a full blend of that. But that self-service aspect is really, really important. So when thinking about creating your digital marketing mix, the first thing I'll do is map out all your channels of where all your customers can find you online. This will vary whether you're B2C or B2B. So for example, if you're B2B, LinkedIn is going to be far more important, whereas if you're B2C, Facebook will probably be a lot more important. But think about your customer journey and how at all the different touch points they're going to interact with you online. So that's your website, your email marketing, it might be SMS, it might be Twitter. Think about all your customer touch points. And the first thing to do is to make sure that you've got the correct brand image, correct tone of voice throughout all these channels. So depending on where they come into, they can visually recognise that it's the right brand. The other thing is to make sure that all your offline marketing blends with your online marketing. So for example, I've already said like on direct mail or any flyers, even posters. Think about making sure your social IDs are on them so people can find you. Think about your email marketing so you can push people into your social profiles and give them a reason to do that. And that's the real key thing. You know, come and visit our Facebook page and get this offer or this exclusive piece of content or watch this video. Give them a reason to come and visit your social profiles. Another key thing, I'm sure we're all aware of eBay. This whole trust aspect is really, really important, or online credibility. Depends on, you know, it's used interchangeably, those two words. But think about eBay. I use eBay quite a lot. And you've got that eBay seller score. And so what people are looking for here is this person credible, trustworthy, reliable to deliver that product or service? And that kind of mantra stands even in the rest of the online world. So if people are looking for buying from you, the first thing they're going to do is start Googling a company name. I certainly know I do that. And what they're looking here for is red flags. So are there any disgruntled customers talking about poor delivery, poor service? Equally, what they're also looking for is green flags. Is there really positive sentiments and conversations on the brand online? And that's going to be a real key factor. So if you're about to do a big purchase and there's people talking about flaky delivery, that kind of information will really fundamentally influence whether that person's going to buy from you or not. So think about a new skill, social selling. So people say, what's the point of social media? The point is that people are turning to social media as a key way of awareness, evaluating products or services, and leaving testimonials and recommendations. So actually within your business you need to very much think about social selling, which is a new sales skill. So think about your social representation. What do all your profiles look like? Have you got the right terminology? Have you got the right presence? Do you have a presence where all your customers are? And it might not necessarily be all the mainstream social media sites. There might be forums or blogs or other communities which are more influential in your industry. And the only way you're going to find that out is by doing searches on your products or services or key phrases and doing some research. And the key thing here is, are they consistent? approachable, and do they reflect the brand values of the company? So as social enterprises, your brand values are going to be absolutely paramount. It's going to be one of your key USPs. So actually living and talking and conversing in the same brand values online is going to be really, really important. So the thing that you need to do here is they're doing the search. So where do the customers go to gather information? So when they're doing this evaluation piece, which sites do they go to, or how do they search? And how can you leverage this information? How can you influence their decisions at this point in time? And that will be through perhaps promoting, getting more testimonials. It might be using Twitter as a customer service tool rather than just a broadcast tool. And the key thing here is work out what information is already out there about you. So using Google Alerts, I don't know if any of you use Google Alerts. Let me just quickly get Google Alerts up. So Google Alerts is a free monitoring service Google uses. So here you go, you can see one of my name at the top. What this does is deliver an email into my inbox here once a day, so I've specified it on all the results. The reason I've put this in quote marks, it gives me an absolute search. If I just did Charlotte Britton, I'd get all the searches for Charlotte and Britton. Doing Charlotte Britton in quote marks means I'm going to get all the searches for just Charlotte Britton, which means those two words together in the same sentence. You'll also see I've got a negative, so there's another Charlotte Britton who's an artist in Spain, and there's another person who's a welfare manager in the US. So using negative means I filter out the words that I'm not interested in. If I just go into my email, get an email on, where's my Google Alerts? There you go, email like this once a day, which tells me what new content has been published on those key phrases. So work out what information is already out there about you. So using Google Alerts is a really good way. Also think about your competitors at this point. Work out which information is being said about them. And importantly, if there is some really bad stuff about them out there, perhaps, or bad service, use that as a key marketing message, because obviously that's going to be something that your customers or potential customers are going to be seeing. So therefore, create a map here, which sites they visit, how often, who's talking about you, and what are they talking about. That will work out who are the key influencers in your industry and in your market. And if there's key topics that they're talking about, which will affect, again, that whole evaluation process, that is the content that you need to be talking about in your social channels too, because that's obviously what's on their mind. In terms of which sites, a lot of these sites are quite particular about companies actually participating in them. So if you go in there, you can't be very brazen, sort of come and use our products and services. What you have to do is more about soft sell. You have to be very generous in your information. You have to help people. And so the point being, it's that trust. You've been so helpful and you've been seen to be helpful. So when people evaluate your products and services on those platforms, they're going to see actually that person is living their brand values, and actually that gives me a lot more confidence. I've already talked about Google Alerts. There's another piece of software called TrackUR, so if you Google that, that will bring up one of the searches too. There's also Twitter searches, there's TwitBeep. So a bit like the Google Alerts, you can get an email each day of people talking about a topic on a specific hashtag, or using something like Hootsuite, you can search specific hashtags. So you can follow those conversations of who's talking about those conversations on Twitter. But the key thing to focus on here is, I think this is where people really fall down, is it's not a broadcast medium. It's about engaging. The internet over the past 30 years has been one of the most biggest enabling devices, platforms for enabling conversations. And actually you need to be part of that conversation. So actually just saying, here's a blog post about our products and services isn't enough. You need to join those conversations about your products and services. and be generous in the information and support you give others. And so when you're thinking about your content and what you're going to be talking about, and this whole idea about self-service, if people really want to be able to make an informed decision, you need to give them the information that they need. So think about top tips on your blog posts. So if there's an FAQ perhaps, or questions that you get asked frequently by customers when they're purchasing them products, write it up as a blog post. If there's top tips that knowledge that you've gained from being in that industry, share it as a top tip blog post. Break it down. You might just want to do one tip as one blog post. Think about white papers. So if you're a bit of a thought, trying to position yourself as thought leaders, think about white papers. Try and perhaps do a survey using something like SurveyMonkey and actually write that up as a white paper. People are hungry for information. And again, in that evaluation process, if people are looking for information and you're giving them information, blog posts, white papers, downloads, it's going to put a big tick in that box. So downloads might just be how-to guides, might be buying guides, it might be white papers. Video content. I went on a video blogging course myself recently up in York it was. I think for 60 quid they taught you how to use a video camera, how to edit software, how to use YouTube. And actually that's enabled certainly me myself to do interviews this summer. So what I've done is going around talking to businesses who are just using social media in an inspiring, innovative way. And so that's all about me positioning myself in that space. But what I'm also doing is giving my users content. So if they're thinking about how do I get return on investment, how do I use this technology, there are video case studies of other people out there across the UK using social media in an innovative way. So from that evaluation piece, it's giving them that peace of mind. If you've also got access to perhaps influential people in your industry, so interviews are really good. Doesn't necessarily have to be a video content. On iPhones there's a plugin called HD Recorder, so you can do audio and upload that to something like Audio Boo, or you can just do an interview and do something typed up. And podcasts or video audio interviews. So really think about content. Content is king. And in a recent update from Google in September, what they've done is those sites with really flaky, really poor quality content, they've actually penalised them for that, because they, think about the customer, what's good for the customer. Customers want good content. So if you've got good content and people are engaging with it, it's going to help your rankings in the search engines. So thinking a little bit more about Twitter. Do you use hashtags relevant to your industry, products or location? So let me talk a little bit more about Twitter. So this is a Twitter account that I manage. So a hashtag, you see here, hash for Friday hash competition. A hashtag is just a great way of following a conversation. It's a bit like an email list, I suppose, is the best one I can tell you about. If you're interested in competitions, you're going to follow that because you're interested in that, and therefore if somebody's got a competition, they're going to put it out on that hashtag, and so you can join the competition. So you need to use the Twitter search here to find the hashtags which are right for you. And the best way of doing that is perhaps looking at some of your competitors. Look at what hashtags they're using. That's a really good indicator of which ones are important. Then you can start looking at their users and their followers and start looking at what hashtags they're using. And hashtags come and go. There might be an event or a conference or a seminar that is here and now and becomes very active on that hashtag, and then the conversations die away. You need to be on the finger on the pulse on finding out all the new forever expanding, growing hashtags. So follow conversations on Twitter using hashtags. Is really, really important. And if you're, again, a location-based business, get involved in what's happening overall in your community. So if it's hash Leeds, hash Manchester, get involved in the community that surrounds your products and services in your area. Then think about, do you broadcast or do you engage? Do you join those conversations which related to your products or services in your area? Are you generous with your information? Are you supplying information which people want? Another key thing here is being consistent. Doing it day in, day out is really, really, really important. So from an evaluation point of view, if you see a Twitter account which hasn't been used in 8 months, is that going to give you confidence that they're sticking to it and they know what they're doing? Or a Facebook page which hasn't had anything on it in the past 2 months? Responsive, has somebody posted a question to you and it was last week and you haven't got back to them? Being responsive is really, really important. But again, it's about personality. People buy from people. So this little blend, and there's certainly a big discussion about, should I, as a person who's interested in, I don't know, food, for example, and I run my own business, should I use my own Twitter account to share my love of food as well? Personally, I think sharing a little bit of who you are is always a good thing. Another example is a good solicitors in Leeds, and they do a lot around sports contracts, and the managing partner there was tweeting about something to do with Leeds United, which is his favourite football team. 10 minutes later he got a telephone call from BBC Leeds saying, would you come on our radio show tomorrow morning to talk further on this topic? So if you've got personality and you are being responsive, you're going to create yourselves a lot more opportunities. Also here there's some great tools. Hootsuite's one which I've mentioned, which can make your life an awful lot easier. So rather than having to go off to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, platforms like TweetDeck and Hootsuite mean you can pull all those profiles into one interface, which means you can just publish content from one interface rather than having to dip into all the others. But it also means you can schedule content, and that's really important. You might have days where you're out the office and you need to make sure content's going out, and that's absolutely fine to do. It means if you've got a smartphone or an iPad or other devices, perhaps Twitter on the hoof, so if tweets come in you can respond to them, but you're not having to do the sending content out. If you are a B2B, LinkedIn is going to be important, so make sure your profile is set up 100%. Make sure your company page is set up. That's quite a new, recent thing. And so let me just quickly go to LinkedIn. So you've got companies here. So top right there, you've got, go back to it, you've got add a company. So if you haven't set up your company page, set up a company there, and it shows you through the screens that you need to go through. They've recently changed company pages, and I haven't updated mine, so forgive me for that. But people can find you more information about your company here, and you can also put your products and services on there. So that gives you an option to put your products and services in there. So what this is a mini website, if you want a better rationale. One word of warning I would say is Google's recent update was about duplicate content. So don't word for word copy your website into here. Try and use it more as a teaser to drive people back into your website. So leave them wanting to read more so they click through. You can also add video content here. That's really, really important. But also gives you page insights of who's looked at your page. That's really, really key. And the other key thing is this little thing here, I don't know if you've ever seen this. Who's viewed your profile in the past 7 days? 6 people have looked at my profile, and my profile's come up 35 times in the past 3 days, which is good. Please do that. People say, do I need to have the paid for version? I think it's about £19 or £20 a month, but you can flex it, so have it on 1 month and not another month. But the real big key thing I'll say on LinkedIn, if you just go into the advanced search, and the reason people go for the paid for version is, if you know there are key people that you want to contact new business-wise, so or key influencers in your industry that you want to contact, this is a great way. You can search for people in specific industries or groups, what company sizes, level of seniority. At the top you can search for specific location. And what this does is, I'm just going to put, it brings it back in descending level of contact. So you see here, this is the second. This person is contacted or linked to me via 11 people. And what I can then say, if I was doing a new business campaign, I could say, yes, that person perhaps looks really interesting. I'm out of those 11 people, work out who I know the best. I kind of take things offline at this point in time, and I'd phone that person and say, would you mind doing an introduction to Jennifer in this instance? So if you're looking at new business, LinkedIn's quite a neat way of doing it. But again, that whole thing about credibility is really important. Your profile needs to be up to date. You need to have your blog attached. You need to be actively participating in that, because it gives people that reassurance that you're not just spam, you're a real person looking for an opportunity. You can also link your Twitter and blog into your personal profile and your business page, so that's well worth doing. Twitter I'm talking about here is, it used to be able to have your Twitter feed, you can't have that now. All you can have on Twitter is your link to your Twitter account. Groups, little is more here. Think a little bit more laterally about what groups you might want to join. So rather than go to the obvious places, think about what groups people might join who are your potential customers. So it might be specific industries, it might be a specific topic, but actually grow your credibility and profile rather than dabble is what I would say. So focus on one or two groups rather than all the groups. Other profiles I'd suggest you look at, Facebook fan page. Facebook fan pages are an interesting one. The big key thing here, Facebook looks at, just because somebody is a fan of your page, you're going to assume that your news on your page goes on their timeline. Not so. What Facebook is looking at here is 3 things. The affinity, so how many interactions you have with your fans. So better having 100 fans and 50 of them on a regular basis engaging with you than 1,000 fans and only 50 engaging. So that affinity is really, really important. Timeliness, so if there's key topics being searched on or discussed on Facebook, is your topic on timely, is it current? And actually, newer content gets more exposure as well on timelines. And putting all those 3 factors together, Facebook will decide whether your news should go on people's timelines. So those people who have a greater affinity to you, you have a greater chance on getting their news feeds than those people who don't. So what you need to think about here is content. Go back to that self-service aspect, and you want to generate content which people are interested in, which is going to help them on their buying process. But there's also the recommendations you can do, there's polls you can do. So think about content, and you need to almost have almost campaigns, key topics, so drip feeding content rather than a big one here. Foursquare is good if you've got a location business, so people check into your location, and if they check in enough times, they become the mayor of the location. So Starbucks, for example, are really great on this. If you check into Starbucks enough, you become the mayor, and if you're the mayor on a Wednesday, you get a free drink. Domino's pizzas do the same. QR codes are a great way of embedding URLs, so if you're doing your brochures, for example, QR codes are quite a neat way for promoting your Facebook page. People scan it with your smartphones. Flickr's a good one, so if you're a business which lends itself to having lots of photos, that's again a neat way of getting people to upload their photos to your group. So thinking a little bit about sales process here, and that's social selling. Invest the time in setting up your profile, monitoring and responding. It's going to be really, really important. And really blend those conversations with your existing process to try and drive them back into your website. So for example, I've even seen tweets of people saying, I'm reviewing a software XXX, what do you think? That's absolutely fine to respond to those people. Perhaps put in your viewpoint on that. So just recapping, thinking a little bit about this marketing funnel. Think about blending in your traditional and digital aspects, and really think about where are those conversations happening for your industry, for your business, what platforms, who's saying what topics are they talking about, and then think about through these social channels, how can you create that awareness of your brand, and how can you engage with people. A follow, a fan, a like, they're all signs of engagement. How do you maintain their interest and their desire for your products and services, and how do you convert that through to a purchase? So a little bit more of what I'd call on this engagement zone, which is right-hand bit. If you're thinking about content on your website, talked a little bit about white paper or stuff like that. Think about how that might look like. So here, this is a contact form saying, you know, what information you're interested in, and we'll make sure the right person calls you. Or this one here, they've got a white paper you want to download, but you actually have to give away your email address to be able to access that white paper. Those engagement zones, where that touch point is, people leave a little trace of their journey to your, through the sales process. So the more information that you can obtain about these people, the better. So once you've got a person in your engagement zone and you're like talking to them on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they might have downloaded something. It's a great way of, again, that social selling, of getting people through your sales funnel, and that really is going to become the new norm. And the key thing here is, I'm a real believer in this, this is going to become far more important as we go forward. Google's taken a lot more interest in social factors. So actually really thinking about how social media and what's the point of it and how it's going to help drive your sales process is going to become important. So if you're an early adopter on this thinking, it's just going to be a great way of creating that competitive advantage. So that's all for me. It's about 20 to 12, 1 even. So I'll take questions at this point in time, assuming some have come through.
Great, thank you, Charlotte. I have a couple of questions here.
Okay.
So let's start with the first one, and this is something that I was thinking about personally as well. So I'm glad this has come through. So, who is the best person in the organisation to devote their time to social media? It can be very time-consuming if you include emails and updating the website, etc. And if sort of follow on to that, should there be somebody who's dedicated to social media and web management? Should they actually be a member of staff? Or can it be done part-time or even virtually from somebody's home? So a few questions rolled into one, but hopefully that makes sense.
Good questions there. The answer, okay, breaking that down, really depends on the size of your organisation. As a small business, I've been running small businesses for about 10 years now, so I know that you sort of multi-skill and you wear different hats. So it might be that there's only 3 or 4 of you in your business, so there probably will be some person who is naturally interested in that kind of thing. So I would, in that instance, look at giving it to one person perhaps. But saying that, if you've got a larger organisation, certainly what I've done with other organisations is get the IT team together with the marketing team and perhaps somebody from the product services team, so you're getting that working committee, if you want a better word, who's going to help shape that content. And actually what we then do is rotate it. So there might be one person perhaps take a few days a week, or it might be you rotate it around the team for one person is 1 week, one person is the next week. And even then on your Twitter ID, the tweets this week are from @Charlotte Brito, for instance. So people get a sense of who's doing it. So if it's behind the scenes in the operations person, or if you're the marketing person, it's going to get very different takes on what's happening in the business. Certainly it can be done part-time. In one of my other businesses, I have got somebody who works virtually, so she's based down in Hereford, and I have a Skype call with her, a video Skype call once a week, and we do a conference call with other members of the team once a week, and we make sure that she's got the content, the know-how to do that, and she works on a part-time basis for that. So I think it really depends on the size of the business and the needs of the business. A larger organisation is obviously going to have a greater brand affinity than a smaller organisation, and that will determine the time invested. I mean, in terms of a process, a workflow, it really is about diarising time for this. I think certainly, juggling hats of account, sales, actually delivering some of the work, it can be overlooked. But actually, if you think about this as your new business channel, you wouldn't miss a networking event, or you wouldn't miss going to that appointment with somebody. This is equally important. But be realistic about it. Dedicate time to it which you can afford. Don't say I'm going to do 3 hours and then only do an hour, because it's sort of demotivating. I generally say once a week, probably on a Friday, I'd sit down and diarise an hour to do blog content. If it's going to be video content, obviously that's going to take longer. But I generally say a cup of tea time a day, so first thing in the morning before we get dragged into anything else, or over lunch, go through LinkedIn, Facebook. And if you are out and about, have those profiles set up on your phone so you can keep up to date with what's being talked about. But obviously the monitoring will be important, so and you can go big or small if you want on something like this. What I always say is, start small, start to, find your feet, and then, build it up. And what you will find is, as you get your new customers on board, actually ask for some feedback. How did you find us? Which bits did you look at? Which bits did you like? And actually, when you get that intelligence back in your business, you can refine your processes, and you can refine your content, and you can refine your marketing funnel a little bit more, so it becomes a little bit more aligned with what people are doing. Have I answered all the points there?
I think you have, Charlotte. Thank you very much. Now the second question is about a specific startup enterprise, and they're saying we are an embryonic social enterprise introducing a new concept in pain eradication that is unique. We are only 2 people at present. What do you suggest we invest our time in with social media and social marketing? So sort of touching on this resource issue, I think, as well.
Sure. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do is I set up I'll talk you through another business which I set up 2 years ago, which was a startup. My husband's a very fanatical landscape photographer, and the old Victorian cameras with bellows and plates and film, so he shoots on those. And we realised there was this niche where nobody was really giving online content for landscape photographers. So, so we knew we were going to set this up, but in the run-up to that, what Tim did was he built his profile in a lot of the photography forums. So he wasn't really shouting out about come and visit my website. What he was doing was that from that credibility and that awareness perspective, he was building up his personal brand. And actually, that actually really paid dividends, because he was then asked to talk at a conference, and we actually launched our business on the same day. And so actually, I think we had 300 fans in one day to our Facebook page. And just through that little building up his credibility, so he had that opportunity, was great. So what I would say is, if you're in that setup phase, what you need to do is create that audience to launch your business into. So really think, that whole research piece, think about what people are saying, what platforms they're saying to, and do that little mapping exercise, and then just really scale it back. What can you commit to? And very much think about content here, and actually join those conversations which are relevant to your pain relief. So I'm sure there'll be, I know there's quite a lot of people talking about pain medication and top tips and complementary therapies. Start building your profile on that, and actually start a blog. It's a great way to get people engaging with you, get search engines listening to you, so when you actually get around to launching your business, you've got an audience to launch it into. But from a time point of view, again, I've been there so many times on a startup that you're running around with funding and getting new customers, and very much that whole awareness piece where you perhaps are educating people at the same time. But again, it's a new business tool, so I dedicate as much time to it as you possibly can, but very much think of this alongside your other new business activities, whether that's cold calling, events, flyers, partnerships. This is just one of other tools, and it just needs to be treated like that. So don't go disproportionate on it. It needs to be in line with all your other new business tools as well. Does that help?
Great, thank you for that. And one more at least. It's quite a long question, so I will hopefully I'm rephrasing this correctly. So apologies to the person who's asking if I don't get it absolutely right. But it's a question about multiple audiences. I think what it really boils down to.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between what works for a customer in inverted commas and what works for a donor in inverted commas?
Yeah.
So you've got charities having beneficiaries who you really are working for, but then you have the paying donor or where the funding comes from.
Sure.
So how to
really
address that?
Actually. Yeah, no, absolutely. So what you're doing here is reaching out to two different audiences, and obviously they are going to be completely different motivators, completely different content that they need. So what you almost need to do is map out almost two exercises of mapping out content. So like on Twitter, there'll be loads of hashtags around donating, charities. I think there's Charities Tuesdays or something daft like that where you can get involved. And what this means is you need to be very specific again about, is your business local, is it national? I'm very much engaging with potential donors online. So if it's a campaign around Christmas and trying to get businesses to donate money, in a specific area, well, you've then got a clear set of people that you can go and target and promote to, and think about their content that they need. But in each market, you need to create credibility, which is the real key thing. So I really think about mapping out that customer journey for both audiences, but also think about what content. So I'm sure on your website you'll have different sections on your website. I'd certainly do that, and also go and look at some other charities. And bigger charities have certainly probably done some R&D and some market research on this. Go and suss out what they're doing. That's always a good way of seeing how they're managing that whole dialogue between two different audiences. But I wouldn't split up your Twitter profile or your Facebook profile. It needs to be one of the same, but you need to be delivering different content to each audience.
Great. Thank you for that. Now, that was the last question I had here. If anyone's got any more, do type them in. We can also, if you want to send us questions afterwards, we can get you answers after the webinar. But if that's all for now, then I think it's time to wrap this up and just say a massive big thank you to Charlotte. Thank you. This was your second webinar for us, and really appreciate you taking the time to come in and share what you know. We have recorded the webinar, so we will share the slides and we will share the recording with everyone who participated, so you can listen in again, and you can as I said, you can ask more questions if you want to direct it to us later. Our webinar series continues. Our next one is on Wednesday the 21st of November. That will be on ethics and values, run by Nicola Dickens from Make It Happen Consultancy. I can also, with the recording and slides, I can send you the dates for all of the rest of the webinars, so you can have a look if there's something there that would be relevant. But I think, yep, that's all from us, and thank you very much to Charlotte, and thank you everyone for joining in.
Pleasure. Well, thanks for having me, and if there are questions afterwards,